Asante Sana, Warden. That does mean thank you in Swahili. And one more thing we like to say is Twende. Let's go. Now Jambo once again, folks. My name is Jeff, and I will be your safari driver today as we head on into the Harambe Wildlife Reserve. Just a couple quick rules and reminders that I do want to go over before we do head on in. We want to make sure that everyone remains seated at all times with our arms, hands, feet, and legs inside the vehicle at all times. And to also hold on to all of your personal belongings. This is a real truck, I'm a real person, and a real good driver, promise, but it is real bumpy out there. So if anything does fall over the side, please let me know, and I'll send a ward right away to go pick it up. But it might not be in the same condition as when you last had it. We are entering our animals' homes after all. And right above your heads, there is an animal spotting guide. And that shows you all the animals on our reserve. But we might not see all of them today. Some of them are quite shy. And some of them also have some natural camouflage that they use to help stay hidden. Especially the ones out here in the Little Missouri Forest. But I'm already seeing some of our animals. I got some good eyes, 4 of them in fact. And I'll use them to spot our animals and then tell you all about them. So starting on our right-hand side, we have an okapi back there with those zebra stripes on their legs and on their flank. But they're actually a relative of the giraffe. With a long prehensile tongue, they use to grab leaves from trees, just like their cousin. On the left-hand side of our vehicle, we have 2 species of antelope. The tan-colored one without those horns, those are the greater kudu. And only the females of the greater kudu species don't have horns. Only the males do. But these copper-colored ones that you see, those are bongo. Both the male and females have those horns, and they're known as the ghosts of the forest, due to their shy and timid nature. That copper coat blends in with the red rocks around here, and those spiral horns help them move through brush and shrubbery faster. But both the greater kudu and the bongo had those white stripes on their side, which make it look like sunbeams moving through the trees, helping them stay hidden from predators. Now I am seeing one of my favorite animals out here. Coming up on the left-hand side, we have a black rhino laying up against the wall here. That black rhino weighs on average about 3,000 pounds and can run up to 35 miles per hour. Pretty impressive given their size. Their horns, by the way, are made out of keratin. And keratin is the same substance that makes up our fingernails and hair. But unique to that black rhino is their triangular tipped lip, which they use to help grab food, and what we use to help identify the species. A little more on that when we run into their cousin. Now I think I see one more animal out here in the Little Missouri Forest, and that's coming up on our left-hand side. There is a saddle-bill stork right up against the brush here. Now they have a yellow saddle on their bill, hence the name. And there's another one in the water here to our left as well. They stand on average about 5 feet tall, and they have a wingspan of 9 feet across. Now, a lot of our animals like to stick around water and rivers, since it provides a source of refreshment, but also as a way to beat the heat. We are heading into the Sapy River as the next part of our expedition, home to some of our more aquatic animals that call the water home. And I'm going to go nice and slow around this corner, just in case a couple of our animals are hiding in the pools to our right. I am seeing some of our pink-backed pelicans on the shoreline, but also 2 of our hippos out in the water here.
Oh my God.
Hippos stay in the water a majority of the day because their skin is quite sensitive to the sun, and they can remain completely submerged underwater for up to 8 minutes at a time. Now these pink-backed pelicans do have a pink coloration on their back, but only during mating season. Both the male and females will watch the nest, and their eggs have an incubation period of about 30 days. And in case you missed those hippos on the right, we have some more on the left. Herds of hippos, by the way, are known as a float. They're some of the largest and also some of the most dangerous animals on our reserve here. They're very territorial, which makes them quite aggressive. But thankfully they stay in that water. Hippo calves are usually about 65 pounds when they're born. But a fully grown adult male, they're about 5,500 pounds. They are herbivores primarily, eating plants, vegetables, and fruit, coming up onto the shoreline in order to graze when the sun's not out, or when it's not shining as brightly. Now I am seeing some carnivores coming up on the left, the Nile crocodile. an incredibly large reptile that grows about 16 feet long, weighing in at 500 pounds with a bite force of 2,000 pounds per square inch. Now, a bite force that massive is enough to crush bone, allowing those crocs to take down prey much larger than themselves. But the parents can be surprisingly gentle with their jaws when they want to be. For instance, they'll actually scoop up the eggs and hold them inside of their mouths for protection, and even roll those eggs around so that the shells crack against their teeth. This helps the babies have an easier time hatching from those eggshells, with those eggshells being softened up for them. Parent of the year for the reptilian kingdom. Now, as we reach the top of the hill, this is our overlook, which looks over the Savanna, the largest part of our reserve, home to the majority of our animals. And you can even see some of our animals from the top of the hill too. And on our right-hand side, this is a tree. An incredibly old and powerful tree, mind you. That is a baobab tree. It goes leafless 9 months out of the year, conserving large quantities of water inside of that massive trunk. It's also known as the tree of light. And trees are very important out here on the reserve. As you can see, the savanna is a very flat and open field with not a lot of trees. We want to try and conserve our environment since those trees play a very important role. They provide shelter and shade for a lot of our animals seeking to get out of the sun, but also it provides food for a lot of our animals too. So we try to cut down on deforestation by recycling paper products and reusing ones made out of bamboo so that the ecosystem out here remains undisturbed. On the right-hand side, you can see a herd of wildebeest moving out underneath that shade. Wildebeest does mean wild beast in Afrikaans, and they have some of the largest herds out of all the migratory animals. We also can see this Maasai giraffe out here, using that incredible height of theirs and their long prehensile tongues to reach those leaves. Giraffes stand on average 16 to 20 feet tall, and those tongues of theirs are about 17 inches long. Gene Simmons would be proud. Now, giraffes spend the majority of the day on their feet eating leaves. 20 hours every day is spent on their feet eating those leaves, and only 20 minutes every day on average is spent sleeping. And more often than not, they sleep standing up. Meanwhile, I can barely get by with 8 hours in a bed. What makes that more impressive is it's 4 minutes here, 4 minutes there, 4 minutes another time, cumulatively for about 20 to 30 minutes every day. Now, resting inside of this den here on our left-hand side, and also by these trees to our left, we have some of our African wild dogs, also known as the painted dog, due to that unique coloration on their coat. Looks like we have some vultures out here trying to sneak a meal away. Now, these are the most successful predators in all of Africa. More successful than lions, in fact. 90% of their hunts are successful due to their pack tactics and incredible endurance. And hello, we have another one of our Maasai giraffe to our left-hand side. Oh, wow. And we also have these Ankole cattle, springbok, and elands, as well as sable antelope out here. All right, let's talk about these one by one. Sitting down next to that tree line, those are our sable antelopes with that sable-colored coat and curled back horns. These Ankole cattle are a domesticated species on our reserve, domesticated by the Watusi tribe. The springbok, those smaller cinnamon-colored ones, are one of the top 10 fastest animals on Earth, as they can run 50 to 60 miles per hour. Whereas those eland, those tan-colored ones, those are the largest antelope species on our reserve, standing 6 feet tall just at the shoulder. Whew, blitz around right there. Now, one more thing we'd like to talk about are these termite mounds that we're passing by. And these are made out of some pretty strong stuff. Saliva, dirt, and dung. But they're comparable to concrete with just how strong and sturdy they are. Some of our larger animals we use them as scratching posts, while smaller ones will hop on top of them to get a look at their surroundings. Like those springbok, since they have a vertical leap of 6 feet in the air from standing. True to the name, springbok. Now, these Maasai giraffe that you see here, they're constantly keeping a lookout. It's very rare to ever see a giraffe sit down or lie down, as it does make them vulnerable to predators. Now, fun fact about these Maasai giraffe, despite those incredibly long necks of theirs, did you know that they have the same amount of vertebrae as we do? Yeah, 7. They're just shaped a little bit differently, a lot longer. Now we got some more of our wildebeest here on the right-hand side, the rest of the herd's out here. Now, wildebeest will migrate over 1,000 miles every year, all across Asia and Africa, and about 1.5 million of them will make that journey. But herds of wildebeest can be as small as 20 to upwards of 1,000 in number. Herds of wildebeest, by the way, are known as a confusion. A lot of times other animal herds will integrate themselves in with these wildebeest since there is strength in numbers. So in order to have that protection, they like to hang around those wildebeest. You can see some more of them on top of that hill underneath the shade here. Now as we head deeper on into the reserve here, the ecosystem out here on the savanna is a bit fragile, but it is maintained by all who live in it. Giraffes will prune the underside of the canopy up above, allowing sunlight to reach the ground floor. And animals like those wildebeest will act as lawnmowers, keeping the grass nice and tight. But elephants will act as bulldozers, since they are the bulldozer of the savanna. They'll knock down trees in order to get at leaves, and this actually allows other vegetation and plant life to grow. And we're going to go see if we can see some of those elephants right now. There's one of the big boys right now. By the way, this massive rock on our left-hand side, this is Mandrill Point. Let's see if we have any of our mandrills out today. There they are, left-hand side. I'm seeing some on top of the hill here and some hanging out underneath the trees. They have a bright red and blue coloration to their face, which gets brighter and more vibrant depending on their mood. They're a very sociable animal, but very shy around outsiders. Far left-hand side if you can't see them. Now let's go say hello to one of our elephants. Now these male African elephants out here tend to stay away from the rest of the herd, as they're a bit more solitary in nature. But they also get kicked out of the herd by the eldest female who leads the pack, when they get a little bit more rambunctious when they mature. There he is right there on our right-hand side. Now those males, when they do get kicked out, will then go form their own herd, or join up with other males to form what's known as a bachelor. But herds of elephants are led by that eldest female. They are a matriarchy, and those herds are known as a parade, or sometimes a memory. We're going to go see if we can find that herd right over this rickety bridge, made out of saliva, dirt, and duct tape. We call that a callback. Don't drink and drive, folks, but don't worry, that's just water. Now, it's the eldest female's job in order to find food and water for our elephants. Elephants need, on average, about 160 liters of water every single day in order to stay hydrated. Meanwhile, we only need about 1.2 liters. And these red clay pits that we're driving past count as food for our elephants. The elephants will dig their tusks into that clay wall. You can even see the tusk marks here on the right, and dig out the minerals and nutrients inside to eat. And I'm seeing some more of our elephants out on the left here. This is the family yard on our left, where all the mothers and their young tend to be. Now let's pay attention to those tusks as we drive by, since those tusks are made out of ivory and are their very large grown incisor teeth. Those tusks continue to grow throughout the lifespan of an elephant, so you can often tell how old or young an elephant is based on the size of those tusks. But since they are made out of ivory, it does unfortunately make them targets for poachers. So we want to try and protect our animals as best we can to keep those tusks, since they use them for a variety of purposes, such as chipping bark off of these baobab trees. Since these baobab trees conserve water inside by chipping off that bark, elephants will then suck on that bark for the moisture caught inside to stay hydrated. Now these elephants out here are easily the largest animals on our reserve. They stand on average 8 to 11 feet tall, and anywhere between 11 and 13,000 pounds. Those trunks of theirs are pretty strong and dexterous. In fact, there are more muscles inside of their trunks than we have in our entire body combined. They'll grab their food with those trunks. They can also hold 5 gallons of water inside of them, and they'll sometimes throw that water onto themselves in order to keep cool, or drop it off in their mouth to drink. Now, speaking of our largest animals, coming up on the left-hand side, we have the greater flamingo, the largest of the flamingo species. Yeah, they are roughly about 9 pounds each, but they also have the lightest coloration out of all the flamingo species. They get that color due to their diet of brine shrimp, filled with a mineral known as beta-carotene, giving them that pink coloration. It takes them about 2 years to develop that pink color, as when they're born they're usually a light gray. The flocks of flamingos are known as a flamboyants due to their colorful and vibrant nature, and we're going to drive past these colorful and vibrant red rocks into the east section of our savanna. There's some more of our elephants in that clearing to our left-hand side. But as we round the corner, we got my favorite animals out here, the white rhino. Now these white rhino are rolling around in that mud here in order to keep cool. White rhino herds are much larger than the black rhino. Now let's try not to startle our animals out here. We don't want to contest a rhino in my truck. They weigh about 2,000 pounds heavier than the black rhino, but they're also one of the largest rhino species, making them a lot wider. In fact, they have a wide, flat shape to their face, which I find adorable. But if you remember correctly, that black rhino's got a triangular-tipped lip instead. Sometimes it's hard to tell the species when they're covered in mud, and our rhinos are constantly rolling around in it to keep cool. When that mud dries and hardens, it acts as a natural barrier between them and the sun, kind of like a sunscreen, and also a barrier between them and any biting insects. Herds of rhino, by the way, are known as a crash. Now, it looks like they're just crashing out in the shade and in that mud. I don't blame them, it is hot out here. But on our left-hand side, you might see one of our cheetahs in the shade here on top of that hill. Might be hard to spot them. Those spots do help camouflage our cheetahs in areas such as these. But those spots also reflect sunlight too. Now, cheetahs are, of course, the fastest land animal, running at top speeds of 70 miles per hour, and can go from 0 to 60 in just 3 seconds. A lot faster than my truck. There's 2 more on this left-hand side, far right of that enclosure, just lying down. Now, fun fact about those cheetahs, those are the only big cats on our reserves here that are capable of purring. But that also means that they're incapable of roaring. Instead, cheetahs communicate using high shrill chirps and barks. And it sounds a lot like bird calls, if you believe me. But speaking of roaring, we're coming up on Kopi territory. Now, Kopis can't roar either, because Kopis are the names for these rock formations on our left. But some of our big cats like to hang out on top of these rocks, either sunning themselves or surveying their surrounding territory. And there they are. There's that lion there on our left-hand side with that golden mane around his head. That means he's one of the males. I wonder where the female went. Ah, there she is. He's right on the rock above him. Now, these lions sleep a majority of the day. 18 hours, in fact, to spend conserving their energy. And when they are active, it's at night, since they are nocturnal. Now, when lions are active, it's the females that go out and do all the hunting, while the male stays behind and protects the pride. But despite being known as king of the jungle, only about 1 in 15 of those hunts are actually successful. But these lions here are pampered. They are movie stars. Quite literally. If you've ever seen the live-action Lion King movie, the models used in the animation, as well as the roars, were recorded from our lions here on the reserve. But I'm not too keen on asking for an autograph. I will stay here in my truck, thank you very much. So keep your eyes open here on the left-hand side. You might see some of our warthogs out in these burrows here. Warthogs will often back themselves into their burrows so that they can charge intruders head-on. But I'm not seeing any of them right now. They might be just in some shaded, secluded area. I thought I saw some more of our animals as we were rounding this bend. Might have just jumped inside of the shade. Oh, no, we got some more actually coming up that we can talk about. We got some ostriches coming up. And these are the female ostriches, by the way. That's because they have brown feathers here on our right instead of black. Now these are the tallest of the flightless birds, but also one of the fastest, as they can run 40 miles per hour. And on the ground to our right-hand side, that is one of their nests. That is known as a dump nest. That's because all the females will dump all their eggs off in one spot. Not all of them get incubated as a result, and not a lot of them hatch. We're going to go nice and slow here past them. We don't want to startle them. Now those eggs were incredibly large and also incredibly strong. Strong enough that I could stand on top of those eggs and they would not crack. Now we are leaving the Savanna and taking one last trip past Magadi Glen, home to one of our wardens. And they like to work on our conservation efforts out here, like conserving rainwater in barrels, since water is such a precious commodity. But they also like to work with their Nigerian dwarf goat pets, that you can see here on the left. Incredibly small, incredibly cute, and very, very friendly. They provide a source of milk for our warden, as well as companionship. And due to their small size, they're very low maintenance too. That yellow box that you see hanging out front, that's a beehive. One of our current conservation projects to help protect our elephants, believe it or not. We found out through research that elephants are scared of bees. Then again, so am I. So we build these perimeter fences made out of these beehives to keep elephants out of territory where they might not be welcome. Areas like farmlands where those elephants might trample or flat out eat the crops. As a result, the farmers get a little upset, and they might retaliate against those elephants. And we don't want any of that. So to avoid conflict between humans and animals, we keep the elephants out of trouble by keeping them out of the territory, which also protects the property itself. It's a win-win for everyone. And there's plenty of ways that we conserve our environment and protect our animals. And I've already talked about a couple today. But if you want to learn some more, I highly recommend heading over to Rafiki's Planet Watch. Our conservation station out there is where you can learn about some of our efforts around the world to protect our animals, and what you can do to play a part as well. And it's also home to our veterinarian team, where you might see our animals having a health checkup. And also out there is a petting zoo, known as the affection section. So if you really like those Nigerian dwarf goats and want to go meet them, they would love to meet you too. In order to get there, you'll need to board the Wildlife Express, a train that leaves the station every 10 minutes. You might even hear the whistle as we make our way back. Now, as we do make our way back to the loading docks today and make our final approach, saying goodbye is a little too final. So instead, we say Kwaherini, which in Swahili means to go well. After all, we may see each other yet again. And I highly encourage you to come on back for another round on the Savanna. No two tours are ever the same. Our animals make sure of that. So you might see some new animals on your next trip around, but you might also learn some new animal facts about the ones you did see today. But if you want to see some more of our wildlife, we do also have the Gorilla Falls Nature Trail out here in Africa on your right-hand side as you exit today. It is a self-guided walking tour featuring our gorillas, but there's also an underwater viewing area for our hippos, and even a section for our smaller endemic life like meerkats and mole rats. But if you're looking to get out of the heat and enjoy some shade for a while, we also have out here the Festival of the Lion King in Africa. It is a 15 to 20 minute live performance featuring musical numbers as well as acrobatic stunts. It is a show that happens every hour on the hour inside a theater with air conditioning and seating. A rarity and a luxury out here in Africa. Now, as we make our final approach to the docks today, folks, just make sure that we remain seated until we come to a full and complete stop. And if I have any wilderness explorers aboard my truck, you're on Symbol 1. Once again, my name is Jeff, and it was my pleasure to be your safari guide today.
For God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten Son, that whosoever believeth in him should not perish, but have everlasting life.
Those herds are known as a parade, or sometimes a memory. We're going to go see if we can find that herd right over this rickety bridge, made out of saliva, dirt, and duct tape.